Are you 100% certain, Jay, that nobody at the State Department had any political motivation in insisting on references to Al-Qaeda, to Al-Qaeda groups and so on, or to warnings being removed from the original talking points?
If you look at the emails, you will see that the focus that people had was on making sure we had the correct information based on what we knew, which was incomplete, obviously, and that we didn't provide information for public use either by members of Congress or by members of the administration that would affect the investigation, that would compromise the investigation. There were a lot of assessments that Al-Qaeda might have been involved. There were assessments that Ansar al-Sharia might have been involved. What the decision was is that by the CIA is that we should say extremists, because they knew at least that much, that extremists were probably involved. Identifying the groups or the individuals was something that would have to come with more work, more intelligence, more investigation, and that's how it should be. And when it comes to the warnings that were a focus of some of, when the Republicans gave up on the effort of suggesting, because they couldn't prove it, it wasn't there, that the White House had directed some changes to the intelligence assessments. They moved on to the issue about whether or not warnings should be included, the previous warnings that had been made by the CIA to the State Department about dangers in Benghazi and previous attacks. And I think you saw in the reporting today that the decision by the CIA, which drafted these points, was not to include that because it was extraneous when it came to what happened in Benghazi. And again, all of these issues, everything we've learned about Benghazi in terms of what happened has been provided by the administration as more facts have become available. And the politicization of this has been highly unfortunate. And I think one good thing, one good outcome of this week is that I think that's been pretty clearly demonstrated.
CNN's Barbara Starr is reporting tonight that you as an administration are readying yourselves for more action to go into Libya and track down the people responsible. Can you comment on that?
Well, that's part of the investigation led by the FBI that the President ordered immediately in the aftermath of the attacks in Benghazi. And I think that whatever activity is being undertaken, and I can't confirm something like that, but whatever activity is being undertaken, I think represents and elucidates the fact that the President has made sure that we are continuing to focus on finding those responsible, as well as continuing to focus on upgrading and making changes to our security around our embassy facilities and around our personnel.
Let's turn to the third scandal of the week. Now, let me ask you first of all, did you ever think you'd have to deal with 3 scandals like this at the same time?
I dismiss the premise, the idea that these are scandals. One is a total concoction by Republicans on the first hand, and the other, depends on the IRS issue. Absolutely. Inappropriate behavior, wrong activity by personnel by the IRS, and action needs to be taken, is being taken, and will be taken.
On the Associated Press, people are particularly exercised about you on this personally because you are a journalist at heart. You worked at Time and very reputably for a long time. Aren't you outraged, as many journalists are, that the Justice Department effectively have gone after maybe 100 AP journalists, getting all their records, trying to expose their sources? Are you outraged by that as a journalist?
I very strongly believe, as does the President, in the need for the press to be able to pursue investigative journalism freely. I strongly believe, as does the President, in the First Amendment, in the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press. These are core values of our democracy. I also believe, as does the President, that we have to protect our national security secrets, our classified information, because the consequences of not protecting them can be severe and damaging to our national security, and they can endanger the lives of American men and women abroad. And these are, the balance needs to be found there, and the President believes we can find that balance. That's why he supported a media shield law that when he, through his both as a senator and then in the fall of 2009 when we negotiated a bill with the Senate, it had the support of media organizations and it had the support of federal prosecutors. I think that proves that we can find this balance. I can't comment on the reports about a specific criminal investigation that's ongoing, nor should I, because of the the sensitivities of an ongoing criminal investigation into a leak that, by definition, if it's a leak of classified information, involves potentially the administration. But I can tell you speaking broadly as opposed to about the specific case, what the president's principles are, why he believes he has to protect our classified information because he has to protect our national security, but why he also believes we can take steps to further protect the media as it pursues, as it should, investigative journalism.
But are you concerned, as many were yesterday, that Eric Holder, who is the Attorney General, is his department, he doesn't seem to have a clue either about what's happened, and when asked to provide the paperwork about recusing himself, he's been unable to do so. It doesn't lend a great air of authority or leadership to any of this process. That the AP can be targeted in this pretty shocking manner, many media people feel, and neither the President or the White House or the Attorney General himself, whose department it is, seem to have a clue either that it was going on or indeed how far it goes now.
Well, I disagree with the idea. Obviously the Department of Justice, obviously the people involved, obviously the Deputy Attorney General were fully aware of the investigation and the activity of that investigation. We at the White House appropriately are not engaged in that activity. It would be wrong if we were. The Attorney General, as you just mentioned, recused himself for this. I would refer you to the Department of Justice for the reasons of his recusal, and obviously the Deputy Attorney General then takes over on matters like this. Look, what I can tell you is, as a reporter for 21 years, I am extremely sympathetic to concerns about the ability of reporters to pursue journalism freely, and so is the President, and that's why we have to find this balance. But it is not okay, it is necessary for an administration, for a president, to ensure that the secrets that protect Americans abroad and that protect our national security are not leaked, because the consequences of that can be severe. And I don't have any special insight into this investigation, nor should I, but I can tell you what the Attorney General said, that it is his belief that the leak involved in this case is particularly egregious. And by that I assume he means that the consequences of this leak were particularly bad, or could have been, and that's why we have to make sure that we're protecting our secrets.
Final question, Jay Carney. Obviously the President made a big deal when he came into office of being not like previous administrations and was going to be much more transparent. The charge today, after this week, is that you have had that reputation for transparency pretty heavily dented. Do you accept that? And just on a general picture, how are you going to move on now and restore perhaps faith that some Americans have lost this week in your openness and honesty?
Well, I'm not sure. Again, you're concocting scandals here that don't exist, especially with regards to the Benghazi affair that was contrived by Republicans and I think has fallen apart largely this week. The fact of the matter is that this administration has a record on transparency that it outdoes any previous administrations, and we are committed to that. The President is committed to that. But let me tell you something. Most Americans want the person who occupies this building and those who work in this White House and in this administration focused on the issues that matter to them, which are not efforts by one side or the other to leverage controversies into political gain, but what are they doing to help the economy grow? What are the elected representatives in Washington doing to make the middle class more secure? What are they doing to invest in our economy so that it produces the kinds of jobs that can sustain a middle class life in the future? And amidst all of this activity and churn here in Washington in the past week, that's what the vast majority of the people who work here at the White House and around the administration have been focused on. And that's what I think the American people would expect us to be focused on. I don't think you'll find, and I didn't find when I was a reporter, that most Americans care about the political ups and downs based on controversies and false scandals that tend to consume Washington periodically. They want Washington to work for them. They want Washington to function in a way that allows the economy to grow, that allows it to create jobs, that allows the middle class to thrive. That's the #1 objective of the President, and throughout all this and going forward, that will be his focus.
Jay Carney, you've probably been the busiest man in Washington this week, and for that reason, if nothing else, I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to me tonight.
Piers, I was glad to do it. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.